So welcome to the Node API, the Node.js Node API team meeting for October 14th, 2022. We'll follow our standard approach of looking at the issues which were tagged for milestone 11. I will just bring that up. While I do that, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share? No, I guess related is there is a major release for Node next week, Node.js 19. And I think I've seen Kevin was suggesting maybe we should plan for a release for Node API as well. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, let me share screen. Where are we? Share. Okay, the right button. Okay, so the top of the list is document how to check for memory leaks in add-on default leak. I don't know if there's any updates on that one.
No.
No, I know we discussed in the past. That's good. Add list of C language bindings to Node.js doc. I know, Nikolai, you were working on that. Go ahead.
The paragraph is not really yet, sorry. But I think that in this I can complete the work here.
Okay, and yeah, that's interesting to say. Like listing all the different places where it's used would be an interesting thing to have too. Yeah.
I missed the last meeting, but I was thinking the same. In the same page, we could have two sections. One dedicated for the different binding for Node.js, and another section for the runtime that actually implement Node API. So
right.
We can place in the same file because the list is not too big. So
yeah, maybe in a different section. So like in the Node docs, we can just reference to the one section. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Better coverage in YouTube.
Yeah, this is I'm working in on this, and yeah, I'm searching some video that now are on the web.
Okay.
Our official yeah, but okay. The most our our results are old. I think
right,
that
okay.
the last that we made was in 2020. I think that was a talk that Gabriel and Kevin did. So essentially, the concept, yeah, are good for me.
Yeah, and I think that any new ones you create, if they can be sort of timeless, because the APIs don't change that much, right? So like once, if there's a hello world, one just focused on that, you'd think that should then be good for quite a long time, right?
Yeah, okay.
Kind of like the Node add-on examples. We don't really need to update those all that often because once they're there, they don't change, which is part of the reason.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Lots of good ideas, and so yeah, so it sounds like you're working on it. If anybody else has any ideas or time to work on some videos too, I'm sure there's lots to do there. So. Full coverage. I know that there's been some work there. Just, I don't know if it was discussed last week. Are there any like PRs or whatever that need to be reviewed?
I think that there is one. Yeah, one. One. Yeah.
This one, yeah, from Jack.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it looks like that's been reviewed though, so Jack has some next steps before we need to get it landed.
I think that we could close the last because it's the same. I think that is the same that now is addressed by Kevin.
Okay, right. So I'm going to. That is this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good point. Let's say. Yeah, okay, I think that's a good idea. Okay, okay, I'm just looking back to issues. Here we go. Okay, so I think we're then on to stale issues. I see there's a number of new ones, so let's just look.
Oh, okay. So what I understood is that even if Electron will implement its node API version.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
I don't know if could be a good thing, have a discussion, no?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I want that, yeah, I would like that node API become a standard.
Right.
No?
Yeah.
To write native code for JavaScript. So it's I don't know if we can maybe share ideas with all other people that now are implementing and Node API for different runtime. Yeah, like Vladimir, no, that he implemented Node API for React Native, right?
Right.
Yes, it's my main goal is to have React Native support Node API. Yes.
So yeah, it could be good. Yeah, share ideas or maybe problems that people have in a different runtime. Yeah, in runtime different in other runtime. So it's
yeah, that's definitely worth thinking about. But I guess if they're turning on, yeah, because Node never turned on that feature
in Node, right?
Yeah.
So like you guys understand what's the issue here? Like sorry, I didn't look too deep into this Are they talking like our implementation of array buffers, not external array buffers, not working correctly? Maybe with something we can do inside of our implementation to address it.
If I understand correctly, only the modules that are using external buffers will not be compatible with the memory cache, right?
Yeah, although that's like without not wanting to copy data is certainly a use case.
So they prohibit using external buffers? Is it what's happening?
I guess it seemed like anything that's.
Yeah, and
where was it?
the access from JS is not possible to access to the outside of the heap. So that's the memory cache of the V8 feature, if I remember correctly. So people will not be able to use the external array buffer and the node buffer with the external memory.
Oh, I see.
Mm.
But it's not.
An alternative will be that they can allocate the array buffer and the buffer from the V8 from the engine, and then they can use that block of memory to allocate their own data. So either they will copy into this array buffer from the engine, or they'll use this buffer to their external usages. So eventually they will have to avoid using the external array buffer when they would like their apps to be compatible with the memory cache.
Oh, I see. Okay. So is a kind of way for us to address it so it will not split up behavior between two implementation? It's kind of a good opportunity to use features.
Yeah, is it the case?
Yeah.
Like it's almost like the methods, like when you're building your, I'm wondering, like one thing we could do, which is to have an option that says like disable memory cache or what, disable support or work with memory cache. Like we got an option which is like work with memory cache, and then it would remove some of the APIs. So at least when you're compiling, you would know whether you're going to work or not with Electron. Kind of like, you can opt into using the full API, which people already have, but if you opt into using a smaller set, at least you know, right?
I'm doubting that if that would be possible, since, like, say, we can compare Node API modules ahead of the time, while we don't know if it can be running, if it is running on the node.js or the Electron. So when we compare the we don't know about how user will use it. If user will use it in node.js or use it in Electron, or even use it in node.js with the memory cache enabled. So I don't think it's the information is available at the time when building the add-on.
It'd be more that the author would have to say, I don't want to use anything that won't work if memory cache is enabled. Now, I don't know if that is it that the create external buffer method will never work with the pointer cache enabled?
Yeah, right.
But
right. So go ahead.
What Chen just said, like it sounds like it should be possible to locate memory if it's located inside of JavaScript engine. Should we add some maybe API to allow to kind of expose this memory allocation through API?
Yeah, you can create a rebuffer just like what you do in JavaScript, and get the underlying memory block from that specific rebuffer, which is allocated in the allocated with the read engine, or allocated with the engine, which is located inside the memory cage.
Right. So, but if this is already an existing method, nappy create buffer copy,
Yeah, right. That's right.
then you can do it. Like, I guess that's, it's that if you want to write your app so that you create a copy instead of using an external resource directly, you can do that. Although it's, that the reason the external resource is there because it's handy not to have to copy the data, right?
Yeah. The problem here is that you cannot bring your own buffer into the engine when the memory cage is enabled.
Right. So that's where I was like, but as an author, you can decide to say, well, okay, if you as an author want to say, I want to support Electron, you could opt in to an option that says, don't let my thing compile using methods that aren't going to work in Electron.
I believe the problem is not specific to Electron. When, like say, when people would like to use node.js as a, when they would like to use node.js as a safe sandbox, they don't want the user code to access the memory outside the engine heap. Then they can enable the memory cage for node.js too, since it's a security mechanism.
I guess you'd have to build, like, that's not via default with the regular node. Like, none of the node binaries ship that way. But I agree.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I know what you're saying is it's not like we wouldn't necessarily call this option, limit to Electron APIs, but it could be something like limit to, I don't know, whatever the right name would be, right? So that if you, because I don't know if there's anything we can do other than let authors opt in and give them some feedback to say, oh, well, okay, if you want to support Electron, if you want to support pointer cage in some other context, compile with this define and it'll make sure you don't use anything that's going to get you into trouble, right?
Yeah.
I was just thinking that's something concrete we could do, add another if def. Just like if you say, hey, I only want to use Node API version 1.0, not one of the later ones, because I want to support these versions of Node, right? This would be a similar, okay, I'm going to define this, and it basically tells the build process that I want to support a subset of the environments. I mean, it doesn't really solve the problem for the authors who don't want to change, right? Like, but I can't think off the top of my head of any way to get around that. If they're going to turn this on and say, this is the way it is, there's not much we can do to.
Yeah, like say, Ved still exposes the external buffer API, but they can be built with the memory cache.
Right.
And the external buffer will crash the process when you use it with the memory cache.
Yeah.
The part, sorry guys, like a little bit slow here, like the part which I don't understand, like you're absolutely right. We do have today mechanisms to create buffer, then we have mechanisms to retrieve this buffer info, and people can copy any data inside. What I don't understand why in this blog they are proposing to do to kind of allocate data using this different method, create external resource, and then they introduce a new method, NAPI create buffer copy, which we don't have. We don't have both of these methods. Why do they need to go through these extra hoops to achieve something which are already pretty much available with normal create buffer?
So does this not exist?
No, as far as I know.
Okay.
So they introduced at least two different APIs, pretty much, but we do have already APIs which do it for us.
Well, we already have, so this one does exist.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that I think what they're saying is like, here's your workaround, right? Use this other API, which will, I mean, it's not really a workaround, but like, because there's some use cases where, like, passing in a buffer pointer to existing memory, like your that's a way to actually communicate, like whereas in this one, in the copy, it's like, I don't know whether you can actually start to then, modify that copy data, or at the very worst, you have this, an extra copy of potentially a large block of data, right?
Yeah.
Right, but I'm just trying to understand, like, what does it achieve, like what it gives. So why not just use normal NAPI create buffer?
I think this is just a shortcut to say, create me a buffer and copy this existing data into it. Right, like it is just using under the covers. I bet you, if we looked at the implementation of Abi create buffer copy, it just is going to be doing the same thing as create buffer, but it copies the data that you've passed into it.
Okay, but my understanding, like, what makes it then very incompatible, that they're adding this new method to allocate resource, right?
I don't think they're adding any new method.
Yes, we see create external resource. I think,
I think that's just like a pseudocode for like, hey, create your own thing.
No, it's not pseudo. I think that's what they added as a part of their API, I guess.
So, but that's part of their resort, their thing,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Right, like that's
Okay.
it doesn't have the nappy thing. It's like they're saying somehow you create this external resource and you end up with a pointer to data, and in the past you could just wrap that into a buffer and then use it from JavaScript.
So what was then incompatibility becomes? Just because what they're saying, if somebody creates a module, they're using create external buffer, and this approach does not work. Is it what's happening?
Exactly. Like I think fundamentally the problem is that if you're in a 64-bit process, that pointer can point to anywhere. Whereas when you turn on this pointer cage and compressed pointers, the V8 can only refer to something within a smaller subset of the address range. And so now you've got a pointer to something which is potentially outside that range. So it just doesn't know how to deal with it. There may also be I don't know if there's like a security aspect where they said, like, we're only going to let you do things in the heap. But like fundamentally, if you got a pointer that it can't address, you're out of luck, right?
But fundamentally, what we can do exactly what they're shown here. We can do it inside of our create external buffer. So technically, it's again, I'm working on this creating features, and I'm trying to apply these features everywhere. So what if
Sure.
we have this feature would say, like, whenever you use create external buffer, in this case, if with this feature for caging available, what we'll do for you internally, we'll do this copy, right? Like we will internally call NAPI create buffer copy for you.
Right. The question would be, is that actually going to fix the fundamental problem, right? Because like if that was a resource that was being written, like you at least have to somehow get a new pointer back to your app to write updates to. Like,
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see
we
how
have
many of the use cases that actually covers, right?
I see.
When we copy the external, we implicitly copy the external memory block to the internal one, then we have to mirror the changes of those two memory blocks, right? Since JavaScript can simply observe the memory in the every buffer, so we have to mirror the change of those two memory blocks if we are going to implicitly copy the buffer.
Yeah, and I think
So
that gets pretty complicated, right? So
yeah.
But don't we have? I think like we have something like get buffer info, something like this.
there are methods to get like the underlying pointer and stuff like that, but like if, for example, I'd memory mapped a file, the old code would let JavaScript see whatever updates were made to that file without having to do anything, right?
Yes.
In the second code, we've created a copy, so you won't see any changes to that underlying memory. you know, because it's a copy as opposed to. So in the case where you just wanted to pass in the memory and it never, like you had a block of memory that never changes or something, then it might work, but there'll definitely be use cases where it wouldn't work.
Makes sense. And what's ABI incompatibility? It's only the fact that if people using external buffers, that's why you propose we can completely exclude from API with the create external buffer, so people don't have this confusion. So we say this function does not exist that you ever want to address with cages.
Right. Right. It's basically that somebody can compile against Node API, it'll run fine in Node, but if they actually run under Electron, it'll crash.
Right. So just to avoid crash, we would simply say, oh, you know, it's never available in the first place.
Yeah, and it's, you know, so it's down to like, what can we usefully do? We could potentially, like you said, have a feature that says like, hey, I'm going to opt into Nappy create external buffer is actually immutable or something. So you're giving us something that's immutable, therefore we could create a copy.
Right.
If you're already going to set the flag, does that really, you're going to have to do something in your application, right? So does that really help more than just saying, well, you're going to have to refactor to call this create buffer copy? I'm not so sure. But the simple thing of like, pretty simple for us would be to add in that extra define. And that would help people at least identify when they're doing something that might run into the problem.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think it'd be good. I'd like to read a little bit more to understand what they've written here, to make sure my initial impression is that's really the only thing that's going on here.
Okay.
But then maybe we can
we definitely don't
brainstorm
want to have some kind of function which would allocate memory inside of V8. I think what we want to do, like disable, kind of exclude from API set this function. So let's just record it and as we can discuss it. And yeah.
Yeah. So let's see where I'm going to go back to the issue. We had some good discussion. Yeah.
It was interesting because I was planning to introduce something like external strings to the API.
Right, and I guess it's an interesting question in terms of, you know, there's a choice here, and does it make sense to limit it down to, yeah, like we do want Node API to run stuff to run everywhere, right? But it also requires some cooperation. So
yeah, the question like what if we want to use Node in some way, kind of Node API in some specific environment where you allow to have these external buffers. Like you said, imagine you have some kind of resource inside of your application. You just want to memory map to this resource, like, and it can be kind of big and expensive resource, like, so maybe it's an image file or something like this.
right. Well, exactly, right. And I guess the other question though is, over time, are we going to, like, if V8 is V8 ever going to remove it? In which case we're kind of out of luck, right?
Right.
If they're actually going to like completely, so that's worth thinking a little bit about as well. Is like, is this something that, you know, in fact, may be not sustainable long term, right? If you know what I mean.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
think more about it and discuss again next week. I don't think we have any hope of changing. Like, do you have I don't have any hope that we could actually go back and convince them not to do that.
Yeah, especially this is about the security issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it security or is it
I would suspect it's security. They want to have effectively sandbox V8 as much as possible.
yeah, sandbox pointers. Let's take a look here.
Or it's performance because they're using special pointers.
Right, it does say here as an exploit. So like I definitely get the performance side, but if there's a security side, then anyway, so that's, yeah, I'll read some more. It's worth us reading some more and thinking about that. But I honestly don't think we're going to change their mind on that. So it's kind of us thinking like, what does this mean longer term? And what can we do to sort of help? Which is the one idea is like, yeah, I'd like to define that, maybe it's like support sandbox runtimes, or I don't know what, right?
Maybe for WebAssembly or not.
Sorry, say that again.
Yeah, I don't know if it's correct of WebAssembly.
WebAssembly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to think if it's related to that or not. Okay, that's okay. Well, here's the discourage using that. Okay. Right. So this is I'm not sure that like maybe the deprecation makes some sense at some point. We'll have to think about that. And then but the command line to help basically let you opt into not using them might make sense too. So, okay. So that's, okay. This one.
I think we resurrected it last time because we found that the issue is closed, but technically we never fixed this finalizers to be run as a part of GC run. It's something what Chen Zhong is working on right now, and
Okay.
I had also some PR in this area, but we found that this issue was automatically closed, so we reopened it.
Okay. So there's some work going on. Anything to discuss this week on that one?
Maybe we could set to be not closed because we are working on, and yeah, maybe I think
Yeah, we could say like never.
never
stale, yeah.
stale, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because it's in our stale issue. So yeah, we every week we can check if all the work is done or not. So yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, Kevin is working on this, and there is a paragraph.
Okay, so that's this one right here, right? Okay, sounds good. So that should just work its way through. Right, okay, so this one
I
I
didn't
think,
get a chance to look at these 2 weeks since I'm on vacation, and I'm just picking up my list to check this list.
okay, sounds good. That was this one, right? This one. I think this one we've got a PR, right? Or
Yeah, by Kevin. It's the PR, but unknown array type. So yeah.
right. Okay, so we're getting there on that one. If we just get that reviewed and landed, we'd be good. That was this one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like there's some discussion going on. Kevin's taken a bit of a look at it, looks like so. Okay, that was this one.
Yeah.
And then the last one here, right?
Yeah, I didn't make progress there yet. It's about
Okay.
example.
Okay. Right, so we looked at stale issues. And in terms of modules that are ported. Okay, so Dino's added support as they announced, I guess, so.
Yeah. Just 1 week, last week.
Okay, so yeah, so I think that's back to that other having a list of places that it's implemented is kind of interesting, so that's good.
Yeah.
I haven't done anything on that one, but still it doesn't hurt to have on the list. Burn down the list of issues in the repo. Okay, so let's go to. So we don't have too many issues, PRs open, so I think this one's new, right? Ish. I guess this one we just need somebody to take a look at, right?
Yeah, the first two.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the issue about the new release, Kevin, prefer to add these paragraphs before to create the release.
Okay. So yeah, if we can try and prioritize taking a look at those, that would be good. Here's one which is brand new. I see Kevin has already commented on that, so that should be covered. This one looks like a question, I think, that if we have. Okay, well, I think it's fairly new, so I don't see a huge object.
Yeah, essentially he need to parse a big JSON file, and Node.js has a limit 512 megabytes. So you get error if you try to open a file bigger than these sites.
Right.
And you should use the Stream API. So I think that you don't need create a native add-on to parse a big file, a big JSON file. But
Right,
maybe,
okay.
In my opinion, you could use some module like JSON stream, and you solved maybe your problem.
Right, okay.
Because here, he are experimenting poor performance, in my opinion.
Yep.
Because he is creating a big object from a JSON file, and then return it from C++ to JavaScript. So this is the problem.
Creating all sorts of little objects, right? So yes.
Yeah.
So do you want to comment? That sounds like a reasonable suggestion to me.
I answer later.
Okay, sounds good. Right. Okay. So this was the one about the new release. That all makes sense to me.
I can make the release when this PR will be emerged for me.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it's the same issue that we had last time. Like we definitely need to do this finalizer fix.
Okay, so basically that's already been discussed. I think that probably takes us back to like nothing new that hasn't been talked about in previous ones. Any other ones in this repo before we move over to core? Okay, let us see if I can find.
Yeah, I made progress this week on this NAPIRF. Oh, yeah, actually, it's a new one. Yes.
Okay.
Look, I was finding that whenever I run unit tests, they were kind of crashing like almost all the time. And I found that we had one test which supposed to return an API value instead of, but it returns void. And the result, it was some random value, whatever is stuck inside of RAX register. And it's trivial change.
Right, so this is actually in the test itself, right? Okay.
It's just return a different value type, and it fixes this issue for me. At least in Visual Studio 2022, it was 100% repro.
Right. Okay. Well, it's always nice. That's part of the advantage of multiple different platforms and combinations. Eventually, one of them shows the result.
And other changes, because I had to use different macro, because previously macro is supposed to return void in case of error. Now we need to return.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So basically, is the only change to return null instead of
return an API value. So return null in there. Yes, you're right. Yes, it's only change. You see, it's only one. It's only test. It's only with specific method. Nothing has changed.
It was expecting some value, and we just weren't returning the value.
Yeah, because we have an API callback, and this specification says we need to return an API value, but this method does return void. And actually look for other tests. I did this kind of quick reg expression search, and it seems like this was the only case.
Okay, so that's good. So basically, that's a good one. Here, actually, where is? Might as well West CI. Okay, we'll get that cracking.
Thanks.
Oops, okay, here we go. This one is back in August. I don't know if there's anything more to discuss on that one, or
Yeah, they also has a reply in the thread, but
okay.
I'm not sure. Like I said in the comment, I'm still skeptical about the solution, and they didn't provide a reproduction. So
right.
Probably they can reply in a thread. So let's wait for the author to see what we can do next.
Makes sense, because I think if nothing else, a reproduction would let us add a test, which would be good. Right? So yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
This one, I think, I don't know if you'd had a chance to take a look.
Yeah,
right.
I have submitted a new patch
Okay.
to fix the issue, but I found that ASIN is still complaining about the new patch, so I may still take a look into it.
Okay. Yeah, let me know when I should take another look, but
yeah.
Okay, it is a tricky area. So any other ones then? Everything else looks a little older. Any other ones we should chat about, or?
Yeah, like last one. I made some progress this week.
This one? Okay.
Yes, so technically I submitted new implementation, what we discussed last time. So technically I updated description, changed documentation. So technically it's ready for the prime time.
Okay, so this one is this now has like a feature that lets us opt in to something on a new. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. Okay, well, try and again, if everybody can try and take a look to review that would be good.
Thank you.
Any others we should chat about or just touch on?
I also did some notes on with lib node. This one.
Yep.
So it sounds like the developer made some changes which I wanted, but not all of them. But at least it now extracted all these different embedding APIs in a separate file. I'm really happy about this change. And the one probably another thing I would like them to do is actually implementation also, I believe, should be extracted in a separate file, because I kind of try to write there like saying that it would be nice to not to put anything not engine specific inside of this JS native API implementation, because I use, for example, in different scenarios, and I don't want to have any node embedding API to be there.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So getting it in the right places is good as well. So yeah.
But it definitely there is some progress, and I think you commented out on this. You probably want to edit your comment, because it seems like it was repeating itself a little bit.
In which one did I?
You just been there.
Yeah, like this one.
Like if you look at the text, it seems like it's a bit repeating itself.
Okay.
So maybe you want to edit it a bit.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay.
But it's great to see that progress actually made in this on this PR, and especially I think after your comment, developer made a few iterations.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting thing in that, like for what I needed to try and experiment with, it was easy to use and much easier than trying to get like a C++ API going.
Yeah, it will be great to look back on this PR, and actually it seems like since developer actually have focused on this code, maybe it's worth to comment and provide some to kind of drive it to completion, essentially.
Yep.
Okay, to drive to completion.
Okay, yeah, no, it's good to highlight that. Thanks. Any other ones that we should chat about?
I want to understand what to do with this finalizer stuff, because I do have another kind of PR open for a long time. Like I want to have this finalizers to be run essentially as a part of this garbage collector runs. Cheng-Zhong, are you going to address this area, or I should kind of update my PR? What do you think?
Sorry, I didn't catch up. Which PR did you mention?
I talk about this second from bottom, like split
This
finalizers,
one.
different types. And I definitely, at this point, I try to use create new APIs, but I think our latest discussions was not to have separate APIs, but maybe using this feature instead. But you do also have changes in a similar area. So my question to you, do you want me continue this PR, or you going to implement it yourself? It's what I guess my question is.
Oh, I see. Next, I have to say that my PR currently didn't resolve the problem that the finalizer can code into the JavaScript. So I believe when the refactor has landed in the main branch, then if you would like to do it, then you can add a feature detection that the add-on can disallow the finalizers to code into JavaScript, and they can get their finalizer to be invoked more eagerly. So I think it's a separate issue we should check.
Okay, then I'll just wait until you finish up your PR, and my PR with features will be finished. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sounds good. Any other things?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, well, if not, we're pretty much at time anyway. Thanks for everybody's time, and we'll see everybody in GitHub in next week.
Same.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Talk to everybody later. Bye.